After a 5-game losing streak and 4 of those games being against sub-500 teams, the Chicago Bulls get a win over the Los Angeles Clippers. And why Bulls fans are right to be excited, I'm going to talk about on today's episode why I refuse to believe in anything with this Chicago Bulls team until they win more consistently. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Plus, I'm tired of the stupid trade ideas from major outlets. We're going to talk about that one because you're just not going to fleece the Chicago Bulls. We're going to get into all that, plus Matas Buzelis entering the dunk contest and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And the Chicago Bulls got a win over the Los Angeles Clippers last night, 112-99. Zach LaVine had an amazing third quarter in which he almost single-handedly outscored the Los Angeles Clippers in that quarter by himself. The Bulls go in to win the game, and it was a good win. It was a good quality win against a good basketball team. The Chicago Bulls got that dub, and they executed as a team. Josh Giddey looked some of the best that he's looked in quite a while. Zach LaVine's been his normal self, right? But, here's the thing. I refuse to be fooled by the Chicago Bulls team anymore, right? I'm at the place with the Bulls that I am with the Bears in regards to, listen, I'm no longer going to get up and down based off the fact of what you do game to game. You got to have the sustain. Whatever you do over time, that's what we're looking at for the Chicago Bulls team. And so while they start off this West Coast road trip, well, no, technically the Portland game was the first game of that. They won this middle game of the West Coast road trip against the Clippers. They still have games against the Golden State Warriors, Philadelphia 76ers, Denver Nuggets, Boston Celtics, and Toronto Raptors all coming up before the end of the month, right? And I think after a 5-game losing streak by the Bulls, it's important to see how they respond to that, right? What has that done to this team? We've seen the frustrations from Nikola Vucevic, right? We were missing Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu in this game. Of course, they were missing Kawhi Leonard as well. And so, the Bulls are continue to be that team that is confounding, right? When you look at how they win some of these games versus how they lose some of the games you go into, like, hey, the Bulls should be able to get this one, right? Like, that's just the nature of the Chicago Bulls. And I said it on last night's post-game show. Until the Bulls have a true leader, meaning either on the court or on the sidelines in the sense of a head coach that clearly sets a tone and direction, the Bulls are going to be this inconsistent team. Now, of course, depending on the talent on the court, things like that, the inconsistencies can swing more one way than the other way, but still inconsistent nonetheless. That's where this team has been for years. That's where this team has, been when it comes down to it. And I'm at this place, and I hate to sound cynical. I think if that's the right word to use here. I hate to sound like that about my team. I would love nothing more than how when I started off the show, I was utterly optimistic about everything with this team, right? And I think that, in seeing the way that this team performs, it's for me personally, I got to see more before I can get too up or even too down for that matter when it comes to the Chicago Bulls team. I just can't. And especially leading into the trade deadline, a trade deadline where we'll see if they do anything. Again, not going to be disappointed if they don't do anything. It's kind of the expectation now, at least for me, is that they're not going to do much at this trade deadline. They're just going to come out and do what the Bulls usually do, right? Like, and that's just the place that I personally am in. Now, I don't want to crap on anybody else's excitement. Like, there are a lot of Bulls fans that have some excitement for this team and really think this team can do some things. And for them, I hope that that's true. Like, I don't come in here wishing that the Bulls do bad. I don't want to feel this way that I do about this Bulls team. But at the end of the day, like, this is where we sit ourselves, right? We aren't really competing, right, for anything meaningful. We have a solid enough chance to keep our top 10 pick. I'll give that, right? So we're still in the middle between like the two different factions of Chicago Bulls fans, so to say. But even with the win last night, right, we're still only 2 games ahead, 2.5 games now of the Philadelphia 76ers. But we're 3.5 games below the team that's seated above us and the Detroit Pistons as the 9th seed, as those teams above us are creating more and more gap between the Bulls, much less, a couple of weeks ago when some Bulls fans were saying that we were a game and a half out of the 5th seed, right? Like, that's just the nature of where this team is. And this is going to be one of those seasons where, again, and I think even more so this season and maybe even the last couple of seasons, we did have DeMar, we did have Andre, we did have Alex Caruso, right? And, the direction right now of the Chicago Bulls is still up in the air. And I think this is an important time between now and the beginning of next season. Because, like I said, I'm moving past the fact that the Bulls do anything to make the direction more solidified during the season, right? We've had AK before directly say in-season trades don't help teams. So, I'm not expecting them to make some wild swing that just completely solidifies their direction at the trade deadline. Could they? Yeah, they absolutely could, right? That option is on the table. That flexibility is on the table. I just don't expect the Bulls to take it. The Bulls seem to be, and if I'm going to give the front office any type of, I wouldn't even necessarily call it credit. I don't know if that's the right word here. That if they're going to do something, that's probably not going to be into the middle of the season. I mean, to the season's over. It's not going to be into the off season. And I'll say this. I'll give them a little bit of credit to say that if the Bulls were to wait to see, hey, do we keep our top 10 pick? And then either way, whatever happens with that pick, it kind of, and who they feel they can get, that kind of solidifies some of their moves. Maybe they are more active at the draft. Maybe they are more active at the opening of free agency. Once they have that pick in their pocket for sure, maybe then they feel like they can have a little bit more movement in whatever direction they want to go. So that's an option too as well. And one thing that I have not talked about a lot on this channel, that I'm starting to realize that I may have to start talking about, and this is going to be something that I don't know what this would do to the tankers or anti-tanker fans, but I think something that we're starting to overlook, or that we have overlooked up until this point, is that there is a chance that the Chicago Bulls keep their top 10 pick and they actually move that top 10 pick. And that is something that if the Bulls were to do, because I know people are going to say, hey, there's no way the Bulls are stupid enough in a draft this deep to trade that draft pick. And I'm going to look at you guys and say, do you really believe that? For a team that has shown that they want to be competitive, for a a coaching staff that's shown if and when they get the chance, they'd rather more so play proven commodities in the NBA, even if those commodities haven't been on the best teams. I'm telling you now, don't overlook. I think up until this point, people looked at it like, well, boom, if the Bulls keep the pick, they get a top 10 pick in a deep draft, we're going to get to add a nice, young, solid talent. And I'll tell you this right now, I see a world, I see a vision, I see the picture in which the Chicago Bulls and Arturas Karnisovas are sitting there at draft night and they're fielding calls and a team calls up. For example, I'm not saying that this is the team. I'm not saying that this is the deal that's going to happen. But I can see a world in which the Sacramento Kings call, for example, and they say, hey, y'all interested in De'Aaron? How about if y'all give us that top 10 pick? We send you De'Aaron Fox. We send you one of our future picks. I could just see something like that happen. And maybe the Kings aren't the best team and example for that because they still do want to build something out. But I'm just saying that I can see a world in which the Bulls do something at the draft, much like people didn't necessarily expect the Bulls. It wasn't this front office to move Jimmy Butler at that draft. I can see a world in which the Chicago Bulls trade their pick, if they even keep it, and get some proven talent in here. Now, for some people, they may look at that and say, all right, hey, it's cool. If they do that, who's the talent? How does it help this team? What position is it? And I'll look at you and say, cool. Yeah, there's a chance of that. And maybe that puts us in a place where we're competing for more than just the play-in. Maybe there is that chance. But don't think, and I'll do a better job of kind of fleshing this whole thing out as we get closer and closer to the draft in the offseason. But do not be surprised if you start hearing rumors that the Chicago Bulls could be interested in moving off their pick if they end up keeping it to get a proven player. And I would love to see how the community would react to that if that ends up happening. I know it'll probably come down to if it is or who the player it is. But I'm starting more and more to think that that is something that is a possibility, especially while the Bulls are having trouble moving and finding the value for the players that they do want to move off this roster. But look out for that. I'm just saying, look out for it. But with that said, let's go ahead and keep it pushing, man. Let's get into the next topic. And this next topic I'm going to title, Everybody Stop Trying to Fleece the Chicago Bulls. Because for those that have not seen it, there was a trade suggestion put out there. And I won't really put this one in the realm of rumors yet. I do think that it was said that it was talked about or maybe something that was on the table. But that is a four-way trade, a four-team trade between the San Antonio Spurs, the Golden State Warriors, the New Orleans Pelicans, and the Chicago Bulls. In this trade, the Bulls would be sending Zach LaVine to the San Antonio Spurs. The Pelicans would be sending Brandon Ingram to the Golden State Warriors. The Pelicans would then receive Keldon Johnson and Zach Collins from the Spurs. And the Bulls would receive Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, Kevon Looney, Garen Payton II, 2 second-round picks, one of our own second-round picks back from the Spurs, and the Spurs' own second-round pick in 2025. Now, here's what I'll say about that deal. What the fuck is wrong with y'all? I'm sorry to be frank. But seriously, what the hell is wrong with you people? I know this, and you know what I think? This trade is the exact reason why the Bulls aren't fine. Not that the person who wrote this trade up is the reason why, but this is a perfect example of how people think that the Chicago Bulls front office is just waiting to be fleeced. Really, you're trading Zach LaVine, one of the better scorers in the game of basketball and one of the more efficient scorers in the game of basketball this season, period. There just aren't players that are as efficient as Zach LaVine, right? There's only a handful of them that are doing that. And you want to tell us that we're going to get back no first-round picks, but we're going to get back Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, Kevon Looney, and Garen Payton II, and 2 second-round picks. And then when you read the reasoning in this, saying this would be a financially motivated move for Chicago, as 3 of the 4 contracts they take back will expire this summer. Kyle Anderson is owed $9.2 million in 2025-26, but has a non-guaranteed $9.7 salary in 2026-27. The trade would open up $36.8 million in cap space for the Bulls this summer, pushing them towards to a projected $55.3 million before factoring in a new deal for Josh Giddey. Now, I've said before that the Bulls already are scheduled to have about $56 million below the first tax apron. That's different from true cap space. So if they were to take this trade, they would have $55 million in true and utter cap space, meaning that they can go out and sign somebody for $55 million. They're not going to give somebody, but they can sign that. When you're only under the first tax apron, it means that you can re-sign your own free agents and not go into the luxury tax, and you can use your exceptions and still not go into the luxury tax. But true cap space means that that's a deal that you can literally hand to somebody else for anybody who needed to know the difference. Now, they pointed here that that's serious cap relief for the Bulls, and then they get further cap relief with Nikola Vucevic's contract expiring at the end of next season, and that's $21.5 million. And here's the thing that I'm going to say. If you think the Bulls are only looking to move Zach LaVine for just cap space and a couple of second-round picks, don't make no mistake about it. The Bulls having 3 second-round picks in this draft gives the Bulls flexibility to maybe trade those 3 seconds and move back into the late first round where they can find some really good talent, or keep it. You can find some talent. I just don't see a world in which the Bulls are drafting 3 players in the second round. They probably move off some of those and try to move up in the draft. That's what I would think, and that's a possibility. Even maybe moving and taking those 3 second-round picks, because we already have the Sacramento Kings pick, taking that, pairing it with our own second-round pick that we get back from the Spurs, and the Spurs pick, and trying to get into the bottom of the first round. Now, if the Bulls don't keep their own draft pick, maybe that is more enticing to try to move into the end of the first round. There's a chance of that, right? But then again, you're still hoping that AK is actually active, which is another thing. But I look at this and I say, can we just stop trying to fleece the Bulls? Like, and on top of that, can we stop trying to present trades that don't work? The Bulls cannot take back 4 contracts for only sending out 1 because there's this thing called roster spots. My guys, why do teams keep trying to do this? Why do people keep trying? Listen, if AK and Eversley were prepared to be fleeced for Zach LaVine, they could have moved him by now. Part of the reason they have been unable to move him is because of the value that they hold for Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic, rightfully so. What the hell are we doing? What the hell are we doing? Like I get it that the Bulls front office has been inept. I get it that the Bulls front office has looked downright idiotic at times. But come on, man. Like, if the Bulls were to do this trade, like I said, I can pull reasoning from it, but it doesn't make it a good trade. And what are we going to do with that cap space? Are we really moving Zach LaVine for the majority of the focus to be second-round picks and cap space to re-sign? Like, nobody's going to come here if we don't have Zach LaVine. So that all that cap flexibility, unless you just really believe in Io, Kobe, and Josh Giddey as just the future of your team, all that cap space ain't going to do shit for you. It's not going to do anything. What are we presenting here? What are we trying to get happen here? What is the goal of these things? That's what I need to. That's what I wonder and I ask in situations like this, because it seems like people are just writing up trades so that the Chicago Bulls can get utterly fleeced. And no, we're not in that business. The time for that is past, hopefully. But then again, at the same time, being objective, I can see why people are trying to wait out to see if the Bulls are going to do something stupid, because AK and Eversley have done something stupid plenty of times. So even with me defending it and looking at this deal and saying, come on, man, the Bulls aren't going to do something this stupid, I can also look at it and say, maybe they would. And that is part of the sad state of this team being in. The fact that I can look at a deal that's objectively stupid and say, yeah, it's stupid, but there's still a chance they may do this shit. That's a bad place to be in, y'all. It's a very bad place to be in. But as always, you guys can let me know how you feel on that down below. Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe this is a more quality deal than I'm expecting. You guys can let me know how you feel down below. All right, with that said, let's get into the next let's get into the next topic. Matas Buzelis has entered the dunk contest. As of right now, it's him and Stephon Castle that have entered the dunk contest so far. We don't know if Mac McClung is going to re-enter. I'm assuming that he will. But, hey, I'll say this. Solid shout out to Matas Buzelis. Shout out to Matas, who, you know, has a God-given talent in being in the dunk contest and is using that, because there have been a lot of talented dunkers that have not entered the dunk contest because they know that it's stupid. And this is a chance for Matas Buzelis to make a little bit of a name for himself. And this is at a time, too, where, like, you know, we're still questioning and wonder what the future is and things like that for Matas Buzelis. You know, Billy Donovan recently said this about Matas. It's kind of what we're talking about with Williams. All these guys get into a situation where they come into the league at an extremely young age. There's a pass given on they're young. They have to learn, and rightfully so. But after a period of time, you have to be able to do this. And Matas is consistently the part of him of understanding the league, understanding personnel, understanding who he's guarding. I've been really encouraged with the way he has responded, and I do think he'll continue to improve. He's a worker and gets in there and competes. But as a young guy, he has to learn. And Matas is in a learning expedition right now. You know, I have my issues with how he's being used on the basketball court at times, and how he did, like in the last night's game, no minutes in the second half. Like, I get it, we won the game, and maybe it was the right decision, but I do have those questions. But Matas Buzelis entering the dunk contest and representing the Chicago Bulls is not something I'm mad at, and let's see how the young kid does. Let me know what you guys think on that down below. With that said, we got one voicemail I want to get into from over the weekend. This one's from our brother Corn.
What's the word, King? It's your brother Corn, man. And I'm not just to crash out. Like, you know me, man. I work during the night, so I was asleep during the game, man. This team, man, they're not worth it. You know what I'm saying? Me losing sleep over, precious sleep over, man. Not right now. Told y'all so. Haize said it right, because even though I go, you know, I still go back and watch always. This team right now, as we stand, probably to me is like I said, this era of this team, because the talent is just, there's no heart, there's no will to win. And it starts from the top. Like, it starts from the top. It starts, like you said, with an ownership group who doesn't give a fuck about us. I'm gonna make a little sidebar here real quick. Y'all know I'm a Raiders fan. I was on the Bears chat talking with Haize and shit, trolling Haize and shit, about possibly having Ben Johnson as the coach. But the reason why we had that possibility, because they burnt the shit down. They burnt the shit down, gave it to Brady. Our Bulls is so inadequate that, like you said, we are just so lovely stuff to be mid, and we are a fan base just a prideful, because y'all know me. I love this team with all my heart, man. And just to see this is why I say it's time for us to just blow it all up. Just tank. I saw this, and I'm a moment guy. Haize, though. Y'all know me, man. This is why when we won against the Knicks, I was still like, on Rose night, I was still like, okay, man, I still trade everybody. And this is why. It's not to be against winning. It's against what the fuck we see and what we've been seeing. It is the complete definition of insanity. And us fans is going insane watching this bullshit.
All right, Corn, the state of the Chicago Bulls is sad. It just is what it is. Like, and I know saying this and talking about this after a win may seem like, all right, Haize, what are you doing? What's your goal here? And the goal is to be real. As I said in the start of the show, like, the place that this team is, the no heart, the how frequency we see the competitive gene just not be evident and clear in this team, it sucks. It sucks to have that as your team that you're looking at, that you're hoping is going to grow, develop, whatever it is. And at some point, you do have to right the ship. You do have to right it, and you have to get shit together. And hopefully that the Bulls, throughout this season, which was an information gathering season, that they've taken what they need to take to then realize what they need to do for the next step of the team. And that's the only thing that I can hope for, is that they are aware enough to figure out what the next step needs to be for this team and then grow from it, because that's what we want to see from the Chicago Bulls basketball team. So let's hope that that's the case. Let's pray a little bit. That's all I can do for it. That's all I can do. And we'll see what ends up happening with this team, is all I can say, and we'll see. But all right, y'all, that's my time for today. Make sure you guys are following the show at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that's thanks to you lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.